General Hospital will reveal Natalia had never been used to rejection, especially when it came from Sonny, the man who once made her believe in genuine love. His sudden decision to walk away from her in order to protect his own secrets ignited a fury inside her. What began as heartbreak quickly evolved into deep resentment, and from that darkness, Natalia crafted a ruthless plan for revenge. To execute it, she turned to Sidwell, a dangerous figure in the underground world, long eager to bring Sonny down. Without hesitation, Natalia disclosed the full details of Sonny's upcoming heart surgery, the time, the location, and even the name of the attending surgeon. She knew very well how this information could be exploited in the most sinister way possible, but that was exactly her intent. In Natalia's eyes, Sonny hadn't just betrayed her, he had shattered her pride, and that betrayal demanded the ultimate price. She wanted him stripped of everything. His power, his reputation, and ultimately, his life. As Sonny was wheeled into the operating room in Los Angeles, everything appeared normal. But no one realized that a shadowy figure had infiltrated the secure surgical area, gloved, masked, and moving silently. Amid the chaos of surgical prep, the intruder injected a rare and nearly undetectable poison into Sonny's forebag, a toxin with no scent, no color, and almost no trace once administered. The surgery began as expected, but minutes later, Sonny's heart rate began to fluctuate wildly. Despite all resuscitation efforts, his heart suddenly and unexpectedly stopped. His death was swift, shocking the medical team and his loved ones, especially Carly, who had just arrived to support him and now collapsed in grief. Outside the hospital, Sidwell remained calm, knowing his plan had succeeded, thanks to Natalia's betrayal. Once seen as warm and seductive, Natalia now revealed her true, calculating nature, having directly enabled the murder. Sonny's death eerily coincided with actor Maurice Benard's announcement that he would be retiring due to health concerns, making the on-screen loss even more heartbreaking for longtime fans. As viewers mourned the end of an icon, the truth behind Sonny's death remained buried beneath layers of manipulation, revenge, and deceit. But in Port Charles, no secret stays hidden forever. The painful reality of Sonny's death did not merely exist within the confines of General Hospital's fictional world, it resonated deeply in the hearts of its audience when news broke that Maurice Benard, the actor who had masterfully portrayed Sonny Corinthos for over 3 decades, was officially stepping away from the role due to personal health concerns. Though there had been whispers and rumors in recent months about his potential retirement, the finality of the announcement hit like a thunderclap. Suddenly, Sonny's on-screen death, already tragic and unexpected, took on a heavier, more permanent meaning. It wasn't just a character dying, it was the closing of a monumental chapter in daytime television history. Maurice Benard was not simply an actor playing a mob boss. He embodied Sonny with raw vulnerability, complex emotion, and a quiet intensity that made him unforgettable. Over the years, fans had watched Sonny rise from a streetwise outsider to a powerful, conflicted leader who ruled the Port Charles underworld not only with authority but with loyalty, fierce love, and an unspoken code. He was the flawed hero, the tormented soul, the man who protected his family at all costs, even when it meant crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. For longtime viewers, Sonny was the gravitational center of General Hospital. His presence shaped the narrative fabric of the show. Every feud, alliance, love story, and betrayal felt more meaningful when Sonny was at the heart of it. Whether he was facing down a rival, confessing his pain to Carly, or navigating his struggles with bipolar disorder. A real-life challenge that Maurice Benard also shared, Sonny felt real. Human. Unforgettable. So when fans learned of Benard's departure at the same time that Sonny met a mysterious and devastating end on screen, it felt less like fiction and more like grief. Across social media platforms, tributes poured in from every corner of the fandom. Fans posted emotional video montages, iconic quotes, and scenes spanning decades, from Sonny's early days as a club owner, to his powerful love story with Carly, to his darkest moments of loss and redemption. Some fans, who had grown up watching GH with their parents and grandparents, expressed how Sonny had become a generational connection, a constant figure in the ever-changing landscape of daytime television. But while audiences mourned and the Corinthos family prepared for the fictional funeral, something much darker was brewing beneath the surface of Port Charles. In the vacuum left by Sonny's death, the city began to shift, and not for the better. Sidwell, ever the predator in a tailored suit, wasted no time. With Sonny gone, he began to make bold, calculated moves, seizing territory, forming alliances, and absorbing operations that had once been under Sonny's fierce protection. There were no obstacles in his way, no hesitation in his steps. His ascension was rapid and suspiciously smooth, almost as if it had been planned long before Sonny's surgery. And the silence surrounding him, no expressions of sympathy, no statements of denial, was not the silence of mourning, but of calculated detachment. Sidwell's demeanor was cold, efficient, and deeply unsettling. And then there was Natalia. To the outside world, she had simply vanished. No appearances at Sonny's funeral. No statements. No tears. It was as if she had evaporated into thin air. But those who paid close attention knew better. Her disappearance wasn't grief, it was strategy. For beneath the surface charm and emotional vulnerability she once displayed, Natalia had carefully hidden a heart as cold as steel. She had played the long game, luring Sonny in, gaining his trust, then betraying him in the most unforgivable way, feeding his deepest vulnerabilities to the man who wanted him dead. Though there was no official investigation, after all, Sonny's death was ruled a surgical complication, whispers began to spread. Some hospital staff noted inconsistencies in the surgical report. Others recalled seeing an unfamiliar figure moving through restricted areas on the day of the procedure. A few even confessed, off the record, that they'd been approached with bribes to keep quiet. All roads led to one conclusion: Sonny's death wasn't an accident. It was a setup. And yet, justice had not been served, yet. Those responsible continued to walk free. Sidwell was consolidating power like a king anointing himself. Natalia remained a ghost, her role in the crime still hidden from public view. But Port Charles has never been a place where the truth stays buried forever. There are still those who knew Sonny, not just his role, but his soul. Jason, the man who once called Sonny his brother in all but blood, has begun asking questions. Carly, whose grief is slowly turning into suspicion, is retracing every detail leading up to that fateful day. Dante, Sonny's own son and a detective, has launched a quiet investigation of his own, unwilling to let his father's legacy be tainted by a lie. Because Sonny may be gone, but his spirit still echoes in every corner of Port Charles. And those who loved him will not rest until the truth comes to light. Until the betrayals are revealed. Until justice is served, not in courtrooms, but in the raw, emotional reckoning that General Hospital does best. And when that day comes, the facade will crumble. Sidwell's empire, built on blood and deception, will collapse. Natalia's mask will be torn away, exposing the venom behind the smile. And the memory of Sonny Corinthos will rise again, not just as a man who died, but as a legend whose legacy demanded the truth. Sonny's death occurred so suddenly and inexplicably that it sent the entire medical team into a state of panic. All emergency protocols were immediately activated, from adrenaline injections to defibrillator shocks, but nothing worked. The heart of a man once seen as unbreakable, a symbol of resilience, simply stopped, leaving behind a chilling silence in the operating room. Even the most experienced cardiac specialists couldn't comprehend how a thoroughly prepared and closely monitored surgery could end so tragically. Just hours later, Carly arrived at the hospital, anxious but hopeful, expecting to hold Sonny's hand as he recovered from the procedure. But instead of comfort, she was met with devastating news from the doctors: Sonny didn't make it. Her entire world collapsed in that instant. She broke down in tears, unable to breathe through the weight of grief. The man she had once loved so deeply, the father of her children, her partner through countless trials, was gone. This loss was not only a personal tragedy for Carly, but a seismic shock that reverberated through all of Port Charles. Sonny wasn't just a husband, a father, or a friend. He was a symbol, an anchor in the criminal underworld, a figure whose presence shaped the balance of power throughout the city. His death unsettled allies, frightened enemies, and even earned grudging respect from former rivals. Port Charles was suddenly rudderless, left to grapple with the absence of a man who had once seemed invincible. While the city mourned, with white flowers blanketing the Corinthos family chapel and the graveyard being prepared for a man of his stature, Natalia vanished. Like a shadow slipping through the cracks, she disappeared without a trace. No one saw her leave, no one could reach her. She simply ceased to be present. Her silence raised questions. Why wasn't she at the funeral? Why did she sever all contact? And more pressingly, did she have anything to do with Sonny's unexpected death? To many, Natalia had appeared as a heartbroken woman left behind by love. But as time passed, whispers began to emerge suggesting otherwise. While the official cause of death was listed as a post-surgical stroke, rumors from inside the hospital began to surface. Some medical staff mentioned irregularities during resuscitation. Quiet murmurs grew louder. Sonny might not have died naturally, but had instead been poisoned. This wasn't an accident, it was a calculated, deliberate act executed with surgical precision. The rumors spread quickly. Though no one dared speak publicly, suspicions deepened. People recalled the icy stare of Sidwell in his recent public appearances. They noted Natalia's mysterious disappearance, despite her close connection to Sonny. Suddenly, fragmented pieces started coming together to form a darker picture. Sonny's death may have been a perfectly orchestrated assassination, masked as a surgical failure. While Port Charles braced to say its final goodbye to Sonny, a darker truth was already beginning to take shape behind the scenes. And in the center of it all stood Natalia, not a heartbroken lover, but perhaps the most cunning architect of Sonny's downfall. Sidwell remained silent. He neither denied nor admitted anything, showing no visible reaction following Sonny's sudden death. His expression remained calm, as if the tragedy had nothing to do with him. But in that silence, every one of Sidwell's actions spoke volumes. Just days after Sonny's passing, Sidwell began executing a series of strategic moves, openly, brazenly, and without hesitation. He swiftly took over many of the territories and operations that had once been under Sonny's control, from smuggling routes and underground casinos to complex money laundering networks. Strangely, everything proceeded without resistance, as if the transition had been prearranged. At first, the public watched quietly. In the midst of mourning, few were willing to speculate. But Sidwell's rise to power was too fast, too seamless, to be coincidence. Those who had been closest to Sonny, Jason, Brick, and Dante, sensed that something was terribly wrong. They knew Sonny's empire inside and out. They also knew that no one could just walk in and assume control, unless someone on the inside had helped make it possible. That's when the question started. Was Sonny's death truly the result of a medical complication? Or was it the result of a carefully planned assassination masked as a surgical failure? And if so, who had the motive, the resources, and the ruthlessness to make it happen? All signs began pointing to Sidwell, the man who stood to gain the most from Sonny's demise. Sidwell's silence did nothing to deflect suspicion. In fact, it only made him look more guilty. Rumors started swirling, claims that he had obtained sensitive information about Sonny's surgery, that he had paid off hospital staff to stay quiet, and that a mysterious figure had carried out the dirty work under his orders. While the public speculated, Sonny's inner circle was torn between grief and rising anger. Jason, a loyal enforcer and lifelong friend, could not accept that Sonny's death was simply a tragic accident. Carly, drowning in sorrow, began recalling subtle warning signs in the days leading up to the surgery. And Dante, a cop, but also Sonny's son, quietly launched his own investigation, determined to uncover what really happened behind the scenes. Every clue seemed to lead back to Sidwell. But if he truly orchestrated the entire plot, he didn't do it alone. Someone had helped him. Someone had fed him the vital information. And the name on everyone's mind was Natalia, the woman who had once been so close to Sonny, only to vanish completely after his death. Port Charles was no longer just grieving, it was seething. The city was on edge, not only from the loss of a powerful figure but from the secrets beginning to rise to the surface. A possible assassination masked as a failed surgery, a calculated takeover of a criminal empire, and a mastermind hiding behind a mask of indifference, these were the ingredients of a storm that was only beginning to form. And when it finally broke, no one would be safe from the truth.